What I'd like to do is welcome you all to Carlina Villas. And what I'm trying to do here is bring a couple of tips and points to hopefully make your stay a little better. Now, both the houses are fitted with air conditioning. Now, the houses are set up obviously for your comfort. The way it works is that at 9 p.m. at night, the temperature of the house will drop down to 75 degrees, and that will go all the way through till 6:30 in the morning. And at 6:30 in the morning, the temperature will then rise to 77. Obviously it won't rise because it's not going to heat up, it's just going to allow it to achieve that temperature. And then from around 9:30 till 4:30 in the afternoon, it'll run to 80 degrees. And 4:30 till 9:30 at night, you're at 77 degrees. Now this seems to be a very comfortable level to live under, and it will work perfectly all right as long as the doors and windows are kept closed. If the doors and windows are open, none of this will function correctly, and running over to the thermostat and adjusting it to try and cool it off, it won't do a thing. So remember, just keep the doors and windows closed and it will all function perfectly. Both the properties here, we provide some barbecues with them. They're gas barbecues, and obviously it's difficult to monitor when one of the gases are getting low on the barbecues. So if during your stay you're unlucky enough for the barbecue to run out of gas, if you could just please go to the petrol station or Ace Hardware around the corner, Family Hardware, all of them sell gas. It's around $18, $20. Just grab a gas cylinder and swap it out, and then we will reimburse you for the cost of the gas cylinder when we return your deposit. Obviously both the properties have pools. During certain parts of the season where it's not raining, say for the winter months, the pools can evaporate a lot of water, and obviously there's no rain at that time of the year to replenish them. So what we ask you to do is if you could just keep your eye on the pool levels and make sure the pool levels don't fall too low. If the pool levels fall too low and they're well below the square skimmer on the side of the pool, then the pump will start drawing air, and then that's going to result in damage to the pump. Just keep your eye on it and keep them up about halfway through the skimmer. There's a pool service and the pool guy will be here once a week and he'll monitor it, and on the odd occasion if it's low he might just want to leave the hose running and ask you if you could just switch it off when it gets to that level. So obviously the boat lifts are very easy to control. You've got two levers on the boat lifts and your center positions are off, and the longer length of the levers, if they're facing down, the lift's going to go down. Make sure that the lift is fully stopped before you reselect the other direction, because if you selected down and you think, my God, I want to be going up, so you just turn the switch to up, because the motor hasn't stopped, it will not turn it up, it will carry on and continue going down. So make sure the lift motors are fully stopped before you select the opposite direction. Lower the boat down so much so it's easy enough to get on and off the boat, but the boat's not too far in the water where it's going to drift off while you're putting all your stuff together. So when your boat's down nice and low and just before you get to go, start your engine up. Make sure the engine's warm because you don't want to reverse off the lift and then the engine cut out. So look behind you, make sure your engine's in a straight line down through the boat, and then just gently select reverse. You don't need any throttle, all you need to do is to tick over in reverse going backwards. So let the boat track backwards in reverse, and then when you get clear where you're going to make your turn, turn the steering wheel hard over, and then once you feel the front start to come round, then you'll take the boat into neutral. I have 3 tips for you whilst you're operating the boat in a restricted area. And there's 3 things you've got to remember. The first one is slow, slow and slower. The second is steer before your gears. So in other words, turn the engine, then select the gear. The third one is neutral is your friend. So as long as you're in neutral, you're not powering forward, backwards, and you get yourself in a lot less trouble. So there's the three main things to remember there. Both the boats have approximately 100-gallon fuel tanks on them. And the boats generally, your cruising speed is somewhere between 3,500 and 3,800 RPM. That's going to give you a fuel burn of roughly 8 gallons an hour. With the 100-gallon capacity, that means at least you won't have to fill the boat up with fuel every 2 or 3 days. With that information I've just given you, you can roughly assess how much fuel you're using, besides the fact there's fuel gauges on the boats, but sometimes it's not quite as accurate as you'd hope for. A good captain is aware of another boat approaching. The first thing you need to do is to slow the boat down. Do not try to drive through the wash. The best way of doing it is to run along the wash at the same angle the wash is going, and then roll the boat into each one of the troughs until the wash is cleared. Then you can speed the boat back up and continue on the line that you were running on. Both boats are fitted with trim tabs. Now, because of the nature of these boats and they're bay boats and the comparatively flat bottom, they're very susceptible to trim. If you trim the bow down, you'll suppress the waves. Now, I've run it on the video here, and I'm hoping that you can watch this video and you can see the effect that it's actually having on the bow. Check out the view over the hotels that we're running towards, and you will see that when the trim tabs are up, the bow looks like we're going to go over the top of the hotels, and then when the boat's tabbed down, it suppresses the waves, and you'll see how level it's running, and you'll also see that there's no spray coming in the boat, so it's not going to make the ride uncomfortable for everybody on board. If you're using the boat, just a quick top tip for you: rather than use the cooler blocks that you can buy from up the road, they are at the houses, but they're pretty inefficient. So the best thing you can do really is when you go over and get your waters, you buy a bottle of 24 waters, select 6 of them and put them in the freezer and freeze your 6 bottles of water as solid ice blocks. Those 6 bottles actually fit in the coolers that we provide for you exactly. And the other thing is, if you run out of waters, you can always drink them. And take the separate coolers that are in the garage and place them on the boat. Now, a good tip for that cooler is to take a small piece of towel, maybe make it damp, and set it down on the front, in front of the front seat. And then you can put your cooler on the top of that, and then you'll find it will stay there all day. It won't slide up and down the boat, it won't move. On the boat there's the cooler seat. Now this is the driest place to store anything on the boat. So if you've got cameras, books, or whatever you want to keep dry, stick them in that cooler seat. Don't stick them in the seat on the front of the console or in the middle of the rib. Because on both boats there's 2 live wells. And we have actually had a customer who put the camera in the live wells, and then when you're running with these, the live wells will intake water, and all the cameras were ruined, so just be aware of that. Now for the docking of the boat. So when we're approaching the dock, we need to remember the 3 tips we started with at the first, which is slow, slow and slower, neutral is your friend, and steer before the gear. What I like to do is when I'm coming towards the dock, some maybe 20-30 yards before you approach it, is to get the boat into neutral, so that you've got control of the boat and the boat's not got control of you. So by the time that you reach the dock, you're doing 0 miles an hour, out of gear, out of the helm, and then just manually pull yourself onto the boat lift. Don't attempt to drive the boat onto the lift. Once you've taken all your things off the boat, you need to thoroughly rinse the boat, all the stainless steel work, the T-top and the engine. Before you rinse the console off, put the covers back on the electronics so you're not squirting water directly into them. Now when you get to the engine, rinse the engine off, rinse all around the trim tabs, and then I want you to flush the engines. This is very simple. We have a push cap on the engine, and all you would do is you would disconnect that push cap and plug the hose in. But under no circumstances leave the boat in the dock, still in the water, and lift it up high enough that the engine's clear as well. Even if you're only going to be here for an hour or 2 hours and you're going back out later on, make sure the boat is out the water while it's in the dock. Now, I know you take reels and rods out that you don't even use. This doesn't mean that they don't need rinsing off thoroughly, because even the fact that you may be following another boat down the river, the salt spray in the atmosphere will still contaminate everything. So thoroughly rinse the reels. They've all got braided line, and the braided line will hold more salt water content than what monofilament line would. So don't be shy with them. And then after you've rinsed the reels, at the end of the day, back the drags off.